I'm going to talk about how we put GIS capabilities within web browsers. The initial motivation for us to build the ArcGIS Web Mapping APIs was to enable you to create a brand new wave of GIS applications within web browsers. Applications that would exploit the full capabilities of GIS services, but offering a new user experience, an engaging one for any user. On top of this foundation, the ArcGIS APIs for JavaScript, Flex, and Silverlight, we in Esri have been working very hard on new projects. We are now working fully configurable and out-of-the-box web mapping applications on top of these APIs. And Bernie will cover a few of them that we are hosting in ArcGIS Online. I'm going to talk a little bit about the bottom tier. Those are applications that can be downloaded by any user, configured, and deployed. It's an experience that includes no development for building these GIS applications in a web browser. Many of you are probably familiar with the ArcGIS Viewer for Flex. People download it, tweak a few XML files, and they get fully functional apps without a single line of code. This week, we are announcing a new flavor of this viewer. It's based on Silverlight. One of the things I like about this new Silverlight viewer is that it ships with this site builder application. Allows me to follow what you see is what you get experience for building these applications. This is how you author the new apps. You can define the content of your map, like the extent, but also any ArcGIS service on top of it. You can also configure the functionality of the application, and there are many out-of-the-box tools that are available to users. And I want to highlight the geoprocessing task, which will connect to the analytical capabilities of ArcGIS Server. Aside from content and tool, I can also define the look and feel of my application with the logo, the title, and even these layouts, which define the location of the tools and maps within the mapping application. By simply clicking the Deploy button, I'll create a brand new web application, and without writing a single line of code. Our story with our users is going to be download, configure, and use. And this is a powerful proposition. A lot of people want to do that. However, for you, the story is slightly different. We want you to download, rip apart, and deploy these applications. We'll put many tools in them, but they will become these 80% viewers. There is no way we can create all the tools needed for all the business workflows. And that's a role that you can play in. These viewers for Flex and Silverlight provide you with an extensibility framework, so you can add new add-ins that work within this environment. From a usability point of view, creating a generic user interface and pretend that that will work in any business case is just going against all the rules of usability and web design. But these viewers also are extensible from a look and feel point of view. You can create your new layouts and actually tailor these applications to fit into any business case. I think this is relevant to you because these out-of-the-box viewers are going to set the bar for what our users expect out of the box. I also want to highlight some of the work we did with SharePoint. How many of you have customers that deploy SharePoint? Can you raise your hand? It's a lot of you. Let me share a few hints here. This is a SharePoint site. I configured, out of the box, without coding anything, a little map here that is pointing to ArcGIS Server services and is displaying on top information which is coming from a SharePoint list. Any SharePoint list within SharePoint that has addresses or XY locations can be displayed automatically on top of an ArcGIS map. And that's very useful because you can get into places that you couldn't reach today. Once the information is in the map, you can actually plug into ArcGIS Server functionality. In this case, I'm using the routing capabilities with time windows to route within all the calls for service within my SharePoint site. I think that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Configurable. Download the web parts, run them into SharePoint, extend them to tailor specific business workflows. From a scheduling point of view, I want to highlight 2 milestones. One milestone is actually this week. You can go to betacommunity.esri.com and download the latest version of the Silverlight viewer. It is in beta. When we get to the users conference, we plan to have a final release of this viewer. And hopefully by then, you'll have many add-ins working on top of it. In the users conference, we will also release the site builder flavor for the ArcGIS viewer for Flex. Let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going to talk about the raw web mapping APIs right now, the developer experience. I'm pretty sure you got the memo, but I don't want to miss this opportunity to say that the Web ADF is no longer part of our strategy for web mapping. Wow. That took me by surprise. I think you got it already, right? ArcGIS APIs for JavaScript, for Flex, and Silverlight basically allow us to create applications much more quickly for half the price. And these applications are faster, better looking, more easier to maintain. Our strategy with these APIs is to release very quickly, be very aggressive with our releases, but without breaking code. Milestones. This week, you can go to betacommunity.esri.com, download the latest Silverlight API. It's in beta. You can also go to the Resource Center and use the new JavaScript API. Next milestone, the Users Conference. We'll release the 3.0 versions of these APIs, which will be able to access the new capabilities of ArcGIS Server 10.1 beta. In the meantime, I want to demonstrate very quickly a couple of features that I think are very interesting, and these features are in the new APIs that you can use today. The first one is panning across the dateline, a map with no edges. I really thought this would excite you. But it's not just about displaying. You can also query and even edit in this mode. Here you can see how graphics behave here with the dateline. Is that cool? Second thing, snapping. I'm going to draw a geometry here, just push the control, and I'm snapping to the line. How do you get this? Without a single line of code, just upgrade to the latest version of the APIs, and you get snapping right off the box. Okay, let's go back to the slides. One last thing. With the web mapping APIs, our intent is to offer you flexibility, so you can build these web applications on top of the most popular web development platforms today, Flex, Silverlight, and JavaScript. Often you ask the question, which API should I use? Well, we probably would have to have a conversation about that, but I think often we get distracted by that question. The big challenge or the big question is not which API I use, but how I use them. The big challenge we have is not about picking the right technology today. It's about using the technology right. The big challenge we are having as a GIS community today with GIS on the web is all about usability. We need to change the way we think about building web apps and think you can't release without usability testing anymore. You need to think about that very seriously.